At this point, I want to bring out some underlying aspects of the argument that aren't immediately obvious. And to do that, I'm going to present another potential objection. And that is the following. It is a fact about human beings that, well, first of all, human beings become ill. And when we become ill, we're sometimes unable to work at our careers. However, there's an additional fact about human beings, and that is that at times, women do not become ill, but they become pregnant. Right? And of course, as many people, feminists and non-feminists, have pointed out, pregnancy is not an illness or a disease. However, for a short period of time in most careers, or perhaps longer in ones that are very physically labor-intensive, women will have difficulty performing certain tasks and may need time to rest. Right? And that also applies to some extent after the birth of the child. So why is this relevant? Well, it is a biological fact about human beings, right, that this periodic need for time off from work, right, is going to happen to women and not to men. Now, of course, both genders are, or both physical sexes are susceptible to illnesses, right? So that we can take, at least for now, as constant and equivalent between the two, right? But there is this additional biological fact which creates, along with all of its obvious benefits, an inconvenience career-wise for women and creates an inconvenience for their employers. Now, what can we say in response to this? Well, there's the following point. It's still not clear that this alone leads to the double bind of difference, even in the narrow issue of maternity leave. Why is that the case? Well, let's imagine that history were different. Let's imagine that, let's say, since the Industrial Revolution, which is where a lot of our patterns got started, right, women had been the ones to work in offices, factories, and government, as well as government offices, business, etc. So most of the positions that we have typically associated with men were occupied by women. Well, if that were the case, it seems natural to think that maternity leave would just be a normal part of business. It would just be expected, right? It would be routine, right? Everything would be shaped around the assumption that it's normal. Right? It's normal for every worker, right, to have the chance of periodically needing a short amount of time off to finish pregnancy, go through labor, and rest from the recent birth giving. Right? So, in a sense, men would be the anomaly in that case. Right? And everything would be shaped around the idea that men were the anomaly, right? And the biological patterns of women's lives, right, were the norm. And in that case, there would be no double bind of difference. It wouldn't be seen as, maternity leave would not be seen as an accommodation because everything would be shaped around the fact that most employees in that world, right, have a chance of becoming pregnant at some point in their lives.